It was a quiet afternoon, unusually quiet for the big house that always seemed full of movement. The millionaire, who usually returned home only in the evenings, decided on a sudden whim to come back during the day. Perhaps it was a sudden desire to break the routine, or maybe it was just curiosity. Either way, he found himself driving through the familiar streets, thinking about work, meetings, and the endless decisions he had to make. As he pulled up to his mansion, he noticed how peaceful everything looked. The garden was neatly trimmed, the fountain in the front yard splashing water in gentle arcs, and the sunlight made the large windows shine like mirrors. For a moment, he felt a rare sense of calm. He parked his car and walked to the main door, expecting the usual scene, the house silent, the maid busy somewhere. Doing her chores quietly, he opened the door slowly, stepping inside with the quiet grace that wealth had given him. His eyes immediately swept across the grand hall, noting how immaculate everything was. Nothing seemed out of place. The carpets were dust-free, the furniture perfectly aligned, and even the little decorative objects were in their usual spots. The house looked untouched, as if it were a showpiece rather than a home lived in. For a few seconds he just stood there, taking it all in. Something felt off, though he couldn't immediately put his finger on it. There was a faint sound, almost like a hum, coming from somewhere deeper inside the house. He paused, trying to listen carefully. It was soft, subtle, but there, weaving through the silence like a whisper. Curiosity took over his usual businesslike composure. He moved carefully toward the sound, walking past the living room, where sunlight streamed through tall windows, making patterns on the floor. The humming grew slightly louder, and now he could make out the delicate tones of a melody. It was beautiful, gentle, moving, almost magical. He stopped in the doorway of the next room, his eyes widening in surprise. There, sitting in front of the grand piano that had always seemed more like a decoration than an instrument, was the maid. But she was not just performing simple notes. Her hands moved gracefully over the keys, creating music that filled the room with warmth and emotion. The millionaire froze for a moment, unable to believe what he was hearing. This was not ordinary playing. This was extraordinary. The melody was rich, expressive, full of life and feeling. For years, he had seen her walk quietly through the house, cleaning, cooking, and organizing. She was always polite, never drew attention to herself, and had a quiet presence that made the home run smoothly. He had assumed she was just efficient and careful, nothing more. But now, as the music washed over him, he realized he had been completely wrong. There was a depth, a hidden talent inside her that he had never noticed before. He took a step closer, making just enough noise to draw her attention. Her fingers froze mid-note, and she looked up at him, startled. The color rose slightly in her cheeks, a mixture of embarrassment and surprise. She had never expected anyone to hear her, especially not him. His eyes met hers, wide with astonishment, and for a moment neither of them spoke. The room was silent except for the faint echo of the last note she had played. Finally, he spoke, his voice a mix of curiosity and admiration. "I had no idea. You can play like this?" She nodded hesitantly, unsure what to say. She had never played in front of him before. The piano had been her secret escape, her private world where she could forget everything else, the chores, the responsibilities, and the limits that life had placed on her. It's just something I used to do," she whispered softly. Her hands were still resting on the keys, as if the piano itself had become a part of her. "I learned a long time ago, but I never had the chance to continue. Life had other plans for me." He listened carefully, taking in every word. The surprise had now given way to a deep respect. He could see that her talent was real, undeniable, and yet, for reasons he couldn't fully understand, she had hidden it all these years. The idea that someone could live under his roof for so long and keep such an incredible ability secret was both humbling and fascinating. The silence stretched for a moment, filled with the unspoken understanding that something significant had just been discovered. He could see the tension in her shoulders, the uncertainty in her eyes. It was clear that she had never been encouraged to show her talent before, and perhaps she had even been afraid of what might happen if she did. Yet here she was, playing with grace and passion. her fingers telling a story that words could never capture without thinking too much. He pulled a chair closer and sat down, not knowing exactly what to say next. The truth was, no words could express the mix of surprise, admiration, and curiosity he felt. For years he had focused on wealth, power, and control, and yet here was a reminder that true talent often hid in plain sight, untouched and unnoticed. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked it gently. "Why keep something like this hidden?" She looked down at her hands, her voice soft and almost hesitant. I didn't think it mattered," she said quietly. "I had responsibilities and dreams like this. They don't always fit into real life. I didn't want anyone to expect something from me I couldn't give." He nodded slowly, understanding the weight of her words. It wasn't just talent that made a person remarkable. It was the courage to pursue it even when life made it impossible. And here she was, quietly holding on to that courage all these years, even if she had never known its full potential. For a long while they sat together in the room, letting the silence speak. The piano was still, but its presence lingered like a bridge between their worlds, the wealthy businessman, who had everything he could buy, and the quiet maid, who had a treasure of talent that had never been seen. Something had shifted in that moment. He realized that wealth and power could never create the kind of wonder that lived in a simple human gift like hers. Finally, he smiled, a small but genuine smile. "You have a gift," he said simply. "A gift that shouldn't be hidden." "Not here?" "Not ever." She looked up, her eyes wide, not sure if she should feel proud, nervous, or scared. I don't know what to say," she murmured. "You don't need to say anything right now," he replied. "Just keep playing. Let the world hear it if you want. I'll help you if I can. That's all I can do for now." His tone was firm but kind, a rare combination that made her feel safe. For the first time in years, she allowed herself a small, hopeful smile. Perhaps this unexpected return, which had seemed like a minor disruption to his day, was the beginning of something far bigger than either of them could imagine. And so the quiet afternoon stretched on, filled with possibility. The house felt warmer, brighter, and more alive, not because of wealth or luxury, but because a hidden talent had finally been seen. The millionaire, who thought he had returned home just to break routine, had instead stumbled upon a secret that would change both their lives. The maid, who had carried her dreams quietly in the background, now faced a future where those dreams might finally take flight, and in that still, sunlit room, surrounded by the elegance of the mansion, two very different lives began to intersect in a way that neither had anticipated but both would remember forever. The next few days were different. The millionaire could not stop thinking about what he had heard that afternoon. The memory of her fingers moving across the piano keys, producing music that was so full of life and emotion, lingered in his mind. He went about his work as usual, attending meetings, signing papers, and making decisions, but there was a quiet curiosity inside him that would not go away. He found himself glancing at the clock, wondering what the maid might be doing at that exact moment. At first, he tried to act as if nothing had changed. After all, he had never thought much about her beyond the work she did in the house. She cooked, cleaned, arranged, and maintained everything with quiet efficiency, and he had always assumed that was all there was to her. But now, knowing that she had a hidden gift, everything seemed different. He began noticing small things, the way she hummed softly while working, how her eyes would light up briefly when she talked about music, and how careful and patient she was even with the smallest tasks. It was as if her hands were made to create beauty, whether in chores or in melodies. One afternoon, unable to resist his curiosity any longer, he decided to return home early again. This time it was not a sudden whim but a deliberate choice. He wanted to see if she would play again, and perhaps, just perhaps, he hoped to hear her music without interruption. He walked through the large gates of his mansion, the garden looking even more vibrant in the soft afternoon sun. He could hear the distant hum of the fountain, birds singing somewhere in the trees, and the faint rustle of leaves in the gentle breeze. Everything seemed to be waiting, quietly, for something to happen. As he entered the house, he noticed that everything was still perfectly in place. The floors shone, the furniture gleamed, and the sunlight poured in through the tall windows, casting warm golden patches on the floor. He walked carefully, almost tiptoeing, so as not to disturb the quiet rhythm of the house. Then he heard it, the soft, delicate sound of the piano. His heart lifted. It was her. She was playing again. He paused outside the room, watching from a distance. She was sitting gracefully on the piano bench, her posture straight but relaxed. Her hands moved over the keys with confidence and ease, creating a melody that seemed to tell a story of longing, hope, and resilience all at once. The millionaire felt a wave of emotion that he did not fully understand. He realized in that moment that this music was more than talent. It was a window into her soul. She did not notice him at first. He took a quiet seat in a corner of the room, wanting to observe without interrupting. For several minutes, he just listened. He noticed how her fingers moved swiftly yet gently, never pressing too hard, never rushing. Every note had purpose, every pause had meaning. He realized that she had practiced for years, honing her skill in secret, never expecting anyone to witness it. The dedication, the patience, the love for her craft, it was all there in the music. When she finally looked up and noticed him, she froze. Her hands hovered above the keys and her eyes widened in surprise. The millionaire smiled warmly, encouraging her silently to continue. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded, taking a deep breath. Slowly, her fingers returned to the piano, and the melody resumed. But this time it felt different, freer, more expressive. Perhaps she had noticed his genuine admiration and felt a spark of confidence that had been missing before. After she finished, he walked closer. "Your music. It's incredible," he said softly. "Why hide it for so long?" She looked down, her fingers still resting lightly on the keys. "I didn't think anyone would care," she said quietly. "I had responsibilities and dreams like this. They didn't fit with reality. I didn't want to disappoint anyone or myself by trying something I couldn't finish." He nodded slowly. He could feel the weight of her words. It was true that life had forced many compromises upon her, yet here she was, still holding on to the essence of her dreams. "You shouldn't have to hide who you are," he said gently. "You have a gift and it deserves to be shared. Not just with me, but with the world." She looked at him, a mix of surprise and disbelief in her eyes. "With the world?" she asked softly. I don't know if I can do that. I've never performed for anyone outside this house. What if I fail?" He shook his head. "Failure doesn't matter here. What matters is that you try, that you let your music reach others. You've carried this talent quietly for so long, and now it's time to let it shine. I can help you if you want." For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a possibility she had never dared to dream about. The idea that someone, especially him, could recognize her talent, value it, and even help her achieve more was overwhelming. Her heart raced, and her eyes glistened with unshed tears. She had spent years suppressing her dreams, believing they were unattainable. Yet here, in this grand house filled with silence and sunlight, a door had opened to something she had almost forgotten she wanted. Over the next few days, the millionaire and the maid began spending more time together. He did not pressure her or give orders. Instead, he encouraged her gently, asking her to play whenever she felt like it, and listening with genuine interest. They would talk about music, life, dreams, and the challenges of balancing responsibilities with passion. He learned about her childhood, how she had studied music in secret while helping her family, how she had given up on performing in public, and how she had quietly carried that loss with her every day. He was amazed at her resilience and humility. Despite the hardships, she had never lost her love for music. She had adapted, survived, and yet, deep inside, she had nurtured a secret brilliance. It made him realize how often people's true potential goes unseen, hidden beneath the surface of everyday life. She was not just a maid. She was a person of extraordinary depth, and he felt lucky to witness even a part of her story. One afternoon, he suggested something that made her pause. "What if we recorded you playing?" he asked gently. "Just for now, for you to keep. Later, if you want, we can think about sharing it with others." She hesitated, fear and excitement mingling in her expression. I don't know, she said softly. I've never done anything like that before. What if it's not good enough? He smiled. It doesn't have to be perfect. Perfection is not what matters. Your music is already beautiful because it comes from you. Let's just capture that without pressure, without judgment. One step at a time. Eventually, she agreed. They set up a small, quiet corner in the house with minimal distractions. The piano was ready, the lights softened, and the room held an almost magical stillness. She took a deep breath, sat on the bench, and began to play. The millionaire watched quietly, feeling as though he was witnessing a miracle. Every note was filled with emotion, every pause a reflection of years of experience, loss, and hope. The music seemed to rise and fall naturally, like a river flowing through a landscape of memories and dreams. When she finished, she turned toward him, cheeks flushed and eyes wide. Did it sound okay?" she asked nervously. He shook his head, smiling warmly. "It was more than okay. It was extraordinary. You don't need to worry about what anyone else thinks. This is yours, and it's beautiful just the way it is." For the first time in years, she felt a sense of pride that was not tinged with guilt or fear. She realized that her gift had value, and more importantly, that she had the right to pursue it. The millionaire had not just discovered her secret. He had given her the courage to believe in herself again. Over the next few weeks, the music became a regular part of their days. Sometimes she played for herself, sometimes for him, but each time her confidence grew. She experimented with melodies, added new techniques, and allowed herself to explore the full range of her abilities. The house, which had once been just a place of chores and routines, now felt alive with creativity and possibility. The millionaire, too, felt a change within himself. He realized that wealth and control could never create the kind of fulfillment that witnessing true talent brought. He began to see his home not just as a space of luxury, but as a place where human potential could flourish. And in the quiet moments when the music filled the halls, he felt something he had long forgotten: wonder, inspiration, and a deep sense of connection. That simple decision to return home midday had started a journey neither of them could have predicted. What had seemed like an ordinary afternoon had turned into the first step toward a future filled with possibilities. The maid had rediscovered her voice through her music, and the millionaire had discovered a new way to see the world, through the eyes and talent of someone he had once overlooked. And in that house, bathed in sunlight and melody, both of them began to understand that life sometimes surprises you in the most beautiful ways when you least expect it, when you open your heart to listen, and when you are willing to believe in hidden dreams. The days that followed brought a quiet transformation in the house. The millionaire found himself arriving home at different hours, not for business or duty, but simply to hear the music that had unexpectedly entered his life. Each time he noticed the maid with a new perspective. She moved with more confidence, her posture lighter, and her eyes carried a spark that had not been there before. There was a sense of purpose in her every action, as if the music had awakened something deep inside her that had been dormant for too long. She had begun to experiment with her melodies more openly. What had started as gentle, careful tunes became expressive, emotional, and bold. Sometimes she played something joyful, making the sun-filled room seem even brighter. Other times, her music was somber, touching the quiet corners of the house with sadness and longing. The millionaire noticed that her playing had a rhythm that mirrored life itself, its ups and downs, its challenges and its triumphs. Each note was like a word, each melody a sentence, telling stories that had no need for spoken language. One afternoon, he suggested something unexpected. "Why don't we try sharing your music with someone outside these walls?" he asked cautiously. She looked at him, surprised and a little hesitant. "Outside? I don't know if I can," she whispered. "I've never performed in front of strangers. What if they don't understand me? What if they laugh, or worse, ignore it?" He shook his head gently, understanding her fears. "It's natural to be afraid," he said. "But sometimes the people who need to hear your music will recognize it instantly. The right audience can make a difference. And even if they don't, it doesn't change the beauty of what you've created." For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a life beyond the quiet walls of the mansion. She thought about the people who might hear her music and feel something she had felt for years: joy, comfort, hope. The thought was frightening, yes, but also exciting. Her heart raced with possibilities she had long denied herself. After a few days of careful discussion, they decided to take a small step. The millionaire arranged a private gathering at the house. A few friends and acquaintances would come not to judge, but to simply listen. She was nervous, her hands trembling slightly as she approached the piano, but the millionaire's calm presence reassured her. "Just play," he said softly. "Play for yourself first. Everything else will follow." When she began to play, the room seemed to hold its breath. The soft notes floated through the air, delicate and precise, yet full of emotion. Her fingers moved effortlessly, telling stories that had never been spoken aloud. The guests, initially quiet and reserved, gradually leaned in, captivated by the unexpected brilliance of the performance. There was a moment of silence when the last note faded, followed by a gentle round of applause. She looked up, surprised and slightly overwhelmed. For the first time, she realized that her music could touch people beyond herself. The millionaire watched quietly, a subtle smile on his face. He had always known she was talented, but seeing the reaction of others made him understand just how rare and remarkable her gift truly was. Her confidence grew that day. She began to play with more freedom, more daring, exploring melodies she had only dreamed of. And with each performance, even in private settings, she began to feel a sense of fulfillment that had been missing from her life for years, as the days turned into weeks. Her reputation slowly began to spread, though she remained humble. She did not seek recognition or fame. Her joy came from creating music and sharing it with those who could appreciate it. The millionaire continued to support her quietly, never pushing, never demanding, only encouraging her to embrace her gift. His respect for her deepened with each passing day. He realized that true talent was not measured by wealth, titles, or power, but by the ability to inspire, move, and touch hearts. One afternoon, the maid confided in him something she had never told anyone before. "I used to dream of performing in a concert hall," she said softly, her eyes distant. "I thought I had lost that chance forever. Life had other plans for me and I accepted it, but now I feel like maybe it's not too late." He listened intently, understanding the weight of her words. "It's never too late to follow your dreams," he said. "Talent like yours deserves to be shared, and I will help you every step of the way. We can start small, take one step at a time. You don't have to face this alone." Her heart filled with gratitude and a quiet determination. The thought of stepping into a larger world was daunting, yet the support he offered gave her courage. She began to practice with renewed focus, exploring pieces she had once thought too difficult, experimenting with new techniques, and expressing herself more freely than ever before. The mansion, which had once been a place of routine and chores, now felt alive with creativity, energy, and hope. The millionaire, too, began to change in ways he had not expected. He found himself looking forward to these afternoons, not for business, not for control, but for the simple joy of witnessing someone's passion and growth. He realized that life was richer when shared with others, when hidden talents were encouraged, and when one took the time to truly see the people around them. He began to treat the maid not just as an employee, but as a person with dreams, abilities, and a story worth hearing. One day, he suggested that she record some of her music, not for fame, but as a way to preserve and share her gift. She hesitated, nerves fluttering in her chest, but agreed. As she played, the camera captured the movement of her hands, the expression on her face, and the emotion flowing through every note. When she finished, she turned toward him, unsure how to feel. "It's beautiful," he said simply. "You've captured something that words cannot describe. This is your story, your talent, and it deserves to be seen." She smiled, a mix of pride, relief, and awe. She had never realized how powerful her gift could be when shared with others. Even in a small way, from that day on, their partnership deepened. They began to discuss the possibility of performing in front of larger audiences, but always with care and caution. Each step was deliberate, each decision mutual. She began to feel a sense of purpose that went beyond chores and routines. Her music was no longer just a private escape. It was a bridge connecting her to the world, a way to share her heart and soul with others. Through this journey, the millionaire also learned valuable lessons about humility, respect, and the hidden potential in everyone. He had spent years measuring life by wealth, power, and achievement, but here, in the quiet afternoons filled with music, he discovered a different kind of richness. True value, he realized, was not in what one owned, but in what one could inspire, nurture, and create. Their bond, built on trust and mutual respect, grew stronger with each passing day. The maid had found a mentor, a supporter, and a friend. The millionaire had discovered a talent and a spirit that reminded him of the beauty and simplicity, patience and quiet dedication. Together, they navigated the delicate path between fear and opportunity. Each step a small victory, each note a declaration of resilience and hope. One evening, as the sun set and bathed the mansion in a warm golden light, she played a melody that was more confident and expressive than ever before. The millionaire listened quietly, overwhelmed by the emotion it carried. He realized that this journey had changed both of them in profound ways. She had regained her voice, her confidence, and her dreams. He had discovered the joy of truly seeing someone, appreciating them, and helping them flourish. In that moment, it became clear that this was only the beginning. The possibilities were endless, limited only by the courage to take the next step. And though neither of them could predict the future, they both knew that life had presented them with a rare and beautiful opportunity, a chance to grow, inspire, and share something extraordinary. The music continued to fill the mansion, echoing through halls and rooms that had once been silent and routine. And with each note, the maid's confidence soared, the millionaire's respect deepened, and the quiet afternoons transformed into moments of wonder, possibility, and profound human connection. The mansion was no longer just a home. It had become a place of creativity, learning, and quiet transformation. The maid, once timid and reserved, had grown in confidence with every passing day. Her music had become a language of its own, speaking to anyone who listened, conveying emotions she had long kept hidden. And the millionaire, who had once seen her simply as an employee, now viewed her with a deep respect that went far beyond her talent. He saw the strength, resilience, and courage that had carried her through years of quiet sacrifice. One morning, the millionaire suggested taking the next step. "You've come so far on your own," he said, "but maybe it's time for others to hear your music. Not just here, but in a small gathering where people can truly appreciate what you do." The maid felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. She had never imagined performing in front of anyone outside the mansion. Her heart raced at the thought, and yet, somewhere deep inside, she felt a spark of hope. Perhaps this was the chance she had been waiting for, a chance to finally share her gift with the world. The millionaire carefully planned a private event, inviting a small group of people who valued music, art, and talent. There was no pressure, no expectation of fame or recognition, just an opportunity to let her music be heard. The maid spent days preparing, practicing pieces she had once thought too difficult and refining melodies that expressed the depth of her emotions. She felt a mix of fear and anticipation, unsure if she could rise to the occasion, but the millionaire's calm presence reassured her. "Play from your heart," he reminded her gently. "Everything else will follow naturally." On the day of the gathering, the mansion was quiet except for the soft rustle of leaves outside and the faint hum of the fountain. The guests arrived, curious but respectful, unaware of the talent they were about to witness. The maid sat at the piano, her hands resting lightly on the keys, and took a deep breath. She closed her eyes for a moment, allowing herself to feel the music, to let it flow through her without hesitation. Then, slowly, she began to play. The first notes filled the room, delicate and precise, yet full of emotion. The guests listened in awe, captivated by the unexpected brilliance of her performance. Her fingers moved effortlessly across the keys, telling stories of longing, hope, and joy. Each note seemed to touch their hearts, leaving a profound impact that words could not describe. The room was silent, except for the music that flowed like a river, carrying with it the essence of her soul. When she finished, there was a moment of stunned silence, followed by gentle, heartfelt applause. The maid opened her eyes, seeing the admiration and respect in everyone's faces. For the first time, she realized that her music could inspire and move people beyond the walls of the mansion. The fear and doubt that had once held her back melted away, replaced by a sense of accomplishment and pride. She had shared her gift, and it had been received with love and appreciation. The millionaire watched quietly, a proud smile on his face. He had always believed in her talent, but seeing the reaction of others made him understand just how rare and extraordinary her gift truly was. He realized that sometimes all a person needs is encouragement, belief, and a safe space to let their abilities shine. The maid had flourished because someone had seen her potential and helped her take the first step. In the days that followed, the maid continued to grow more confident. She experimented with new melodies, blending classical pieces with her own creative expressions. She played not only for the millionaire or the small gatherings, but also for herself, finding joy and fulfillment in every note. The mansion, once a place of routine chores, now echoed with music, laughter, and inspiration. Every room seemed to resonate with the sound of her piano, transforming the home into a haven of creativity and possibility. The millionaire, too, began to see the world differently. He realized that true wealth was not measured in money, possessions, or power, but in the ability to nurture talent, inspire others, and witness the beauty of human potential. He felt a sense of fulfillment that no business deal or luxury could ever provide. The bond between him and the maid grew stronger, built on trust, respect, and mutual admiration. They shared not just the music, but the journey, the fears, the triumphs, and the dreams that had been hidden for so long. Encouraged by the success of the private gathering, the millionaire suggested another step. "There are more people out there who could benefit from your music," he said gently. "What if we organized a small public performance? Nothing grand, just a chance for others to hear you and be inspired." The maid felt a flutter of nerves. The idea of performing in public was intimidating, but the support he offered made her feel ready. "If you think I can do it," she said quietly, "then I will try." They began preparing carefully, selecting pieces that would showcase her talent while still allowing her to feel comfortable. She practiced diligently, exploring new techniques, experimenting with expression, and learning to convey emotion through every movement of her hands. The mansion became her sanctuary, a place where she could refine her craft without fear of judgment. And with each practice session, her confidence grew, her fear diminished, and her love for music deepened even more. On the day of the small public performance, a modest audience gathered in a nearby hall. Friends, neighbors, and local music enthusiasts filled the room, curious to witness the talent they had heard so much about. The maid stood backstage, heart pounding, feeling the familiar mix of excitement and anxiety. The millionaire was by her side, offering a reassuring smile. "Play from your heart," he whispered. "You are ready for this." She stepped onto the stage, her hands lightly touching the piano keys. The lights were warm, and the audience was quiet, waiting in anticipation. Taking a deep breath, she began to play. The music flowed naturally, effortlessly, as if it had always been meant to reach this audience. Each note was precise, emotional, and expressive, carrying the depth of her experiences, dreams, and resilience. The audience was captivated, leaning in, listening intently, and feeling every emotion she poured into the music. When the final note faded, there was a moment of stunned silence followed by overwhelming applause. The maid looked up, tears welling in her eyes as she realized the impact her music had on others. She had faced her fear, shared her gift, and inspired people in ways she had never imagined. For the first time, she felt a sense of true accomplishment, a fulfillment that went far beyond anything she had ever experienced. The millionaire, standing quietly at the side of the stage, felt a deep sense of pride and satisfaction. He had witnessed her journey from hidden talent to confident performer, and it had changed him as much as it had changed her. He realized that supporting someone's dreams, believing in their potential, and offering encouragement could create ripple effects far beyond what he could have imagined after the performance. The Maid was approached by several people who wanted to express their admiration and encouragement. They spoke of how moved they were by her music, how inspired they felt, and how her talent had touched them deeply. She listened, overwhelmed but grateful, realizing that sharing her gift had opened doors not only for her, but also for others to experience the beauty of human expression. In the weeks that followed, she continued to perform in small, carefully arranged events. Each performance strengthened her confidence and allowed her to explore her creativity further. The mansion, once a place of routine and quiet, now resonated with music, growth, and inspiration. And the millionaire, watching her flourish, understood the true value of his support. He had not just discovered talent. He had helped unlock a hidden world of dreams, courage, and human potential. Through this journey, both of them had changed profoundly. She had reclaimed her voice, her confidence, and her dreams. He had learned the importance of recognizing potential, nurturing talent, and celebrating the unseen gifts that people carry within them. Together, they had transformed not only their own lives, but also touched the lives of those around them, proving that encouragement, belief, and opportunity could create extraordinary outcomes. And in that quiet mansion, filled with sunlight and the sound of music, both of them knew that this was only the beginning. The journey of growth, discovery, and transformation was far from over, and the possibilities for the future were endless. With each note played, each dream pursued, and each fear faced, they were reminded that life had a way of revealing its most beautiful moments when least expected, and that true talent, when recognized and nurtured, could change everything. The days that followed the Maid's first small public performance were full of change, growth, and new opportunities. The applause, the admiration, and the smiles of people she had never met before stayed with her. For the first time in her life, she felt that her talent had purpose beyond the walls of the mansion. She had always thought her music was meant only for herself, a private escape from the hardships of life. Now she understood that it could touch others, inspire them, and bring a sense of joy and comfort that words could never achieve. The millionaire watched all of this unfold with a quiet sense of pride and satisfaction. He realized that discovering her talent had been far more than a surprising moment on an ordinary afternoon. It had opened his eyes to the unseen gifts that people carry, often hidden under the weight of life's responsibilities. The Maid had shown him that greatness is not always visible, that courage and perseverance often lie in quiet places, waiting for the right moment to be noticed. Encouraged by the success of her first public performance, the millionaire suggested that they explore more opportunities for her to share her music. "You've proven how incredible you are," he said gently. "Now it's time to let the world hear you. We can take it step by step. Nothing overwhelming, just small performances that allow you to grow." She hesitated at first. The thought of performing in front of larger audiences was intimidating. Her heart raced at the idea, and a part of her worried she might not be ready. But each time she looked at the millionaire, she felt a sense of calm and support that strengthened her courage. "I trust you," she said softly. "If you think I can do this, then I'll try." And with that, a new chapter in her life began, a chapter filled with possibilities she had once believed were impossible. They started with intimate gatherings in nearby halls, small groups of people who had a genuine love for music. Each performance was carefully planned, and the Maid practiced diligently, exploring new techniques and expanding her repertoire. With each performance, her confidence grew. She played with more expression, more creativity, and a freedom that had been missing in her earlier music. The melodies she created were no longer just notes on a page. They were reflections of her journey, her struggles, her dreams, and her triumphs. The audience was captivated. People who had never expected to witness such talent were moved to tears, inspired, and amazed. Her music spoke to them in ways that words never could. She began receiving messages of encouragement and admiration from people who had been touched by her performances. The Maid, who had once thought her dreams were out of reach, now realized that she could have a real impact on the lives of others. The joy she felt was overwhelming. Yet it was paired with a quiet determination to continue improving, learning, and sharing. The millionaire continued to support her every step of the way. He provided resources, encouragement, and guidance without ever pushing her beyond her comfort. He understood that her growth had to be organic, that her talent needed space to flourish naturally. And as he watched her blossom, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment that went far beyond what money or status could ever provide. Witnessing her journey had changed him in ways he could not have anticipated. One evening, after a particularly moving performance, the maid and the millionaire sat together in the mansion's sunlit music room. She was tired but happy, her fingers still carrying the memory of the notes she had played. "I never imagined it could feel like this," she said softly. "To play for people who truly listen, who truly understand. It's overwhelming but wonderful." He smiled warmly. "You've worked hard for this, and you deserve it," he said. "You've shown courage, persistence, and grace. Your music is a gift, and you've learned how to share it with the world." She looked down, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. For years, she had doubted herself, believing that her talent was too small, too private, or too insignificant. Now, she understood that her music had value beyond measure. As the months passed, she began to receive invitations to perform in larger venues. Though initially hesitant, she found that each step forward built her confidence. She was no longer the timid maid who had hidden her dreams. She was a musician, a creator, and an artist. Her performances inspired not only audiences but also those who knew her story. Reminder that talent and determination could overcome obstacles. That hidden potential could shine brightly when nurtured and encouraged. The millionaire, too, found that his life had been enriched in ways he could never have imagined. He had always valued efficiency, control, and success, but he had never experienced the joy of seeing someone truly grow because of his support. The maid had taught him the importance of empathy, patience, and belief in the unseen potential of others. He realized that life's most meaningful moments often come from the connections we form, the encouragement we offer, and the courage we inspire in others. One day, the maid received an invitation to perform at a respected music event in the city. It was an opportunity that would have been unimaginable for her months earlier. She felt nervous but excited. She knew that this performance would be a turning point, a chance to share her talent with a wider audience and to prove to herself that her dreams were achievable. The millionaire, sensing her apprehension, offered gentle reassurance. "You are ready," he said. "Trust yourself, trust your music, and everything will follow." The day of the event arrived, and the maid stepped onto the stage with a mixture of nerves and determination. She sat at the piano, her hands poised above the keys. The lights dimmed, the audience hushed, and for a moment everything felt still. Then she began to play. The music flowed naturally, effortlessly, filled with emotion, depth, and creativity. Every note carried the story of her journey from quiet sacrifice to confident artistry. The audience was spellbound, listening intently, feeling the emotions she expressed with each movement of her hands. When the final note resonated through the hall, there was a moment of stunned silence, followed by thunderous applause. People rose to their feet, cheering, clapping, and celebrating the talent they had just witnessed. The maid felt a surge of emotion, tears welling in her eyes as she realized the full impact of her music. She had overcome fear, embraced her gift, and touched the hearts of countless people. The millionaire, standing quietly at the edge of the stage, felt a deep sense of pride and fulfillment. He had witnessed the journey from hidden talent to public recognition, from fear to confidence, from doubt to self-belief. He knew that this moment was the culmination of months of courage, dedication, and support. And he understood that the most meaningful rewards in life often came not from wealth or status, but from helping someone realize their true potential. After the event, the maid was approached by many people who expressed their admiration, gratitude, and encouragement. She received invitations to perform at other events, collaborate with musicians, and even teach others who shared her passion. Her life, once limited by routine and hidden dreams, had transformed into one filled with opportunity, purpose, and fulfillment. She realized that her talent was not just for herself, it was a gift to the world. And she now had the confidence and courage to share it freely. The mansion, which had once been a place of quiet routines and daily chores, now echoed with the music of possibility, growth, and human connection. The millionaire and the maid had both changed profoundly. She had reclaimed her voice, her confidence, and her dreams. He had discovered the joy of nurturing talent, inspiring others, and seeing the hidden potential in those around him. Together, they had created a story of transformation, courage, and hope, proof that life has a way of revealing its most beautiful moments when we least expect them. In the months and years that followed, the maid continued to grow as a musician. She explored new styles, collaborated with other artists, and shared her music with audiences far and wide. And through it all, the millionaire remained a quiet, steady presence, offering encouragement and support without ever overshadowing her achievements. Their bond, built on respect, trust, and shared experiences, became stronger with each passing day. Looking back, it was clear that the journey had changed them both in ways neither could have anticipated. The unexpected return home, the discovery of hidden talent, and the journey from fear to confidence had transformed not only the maid's life, but also the millionaire's perspective on what truly matters. They had learned that talent, courage, and determination can overcome obstacles, that support and encouragement can change lives, and that the beauty of human potential often lies hidden, waiting to be discovered. And so, in the quiet mansion now filled with music, sunlight, and laughter, both of them understood that life's greatest rewards often come from the simplest acts: noticing talent, believing in it, and helping it flourish. The maid had turned her secret into a story of hope and inspiration, and the millionaire had learned that the true measure of wealth is not in money, but in the ability to make a difference in someone's life. Together, they had discovered the extraordinary power of encouragement, dedication, and human connection, leaving a lasting impact on everyone fortunate enough to witness their journey.